Ladies and gentlemen, once again, CF EBA President Mark Kalpin.
Good evening. Could everyone take their seats, please? I don't want anybody falling and setting the place on fire. That would not be good. But there are a lot of lawyers here, just in case, so don't worry about it. So, thank you very much again. And we're going to start again with the formal part of our program. And the reason why we dim the lights is really kind of to make a point here. Electricity is something you don't notice until it's not there. It is one thing to be inconvenienced by temporary blackouts, and I'm sure a lot of us have had power outages and things like that. But not to have any electricity, think about that, and to be literally and figuratively in the dark as we are right now, not for hours, not for a day, not for a week, but think about it, being in the dark for months on end. That's really a hardship that no one, and a struggle that no one should have to go through, let alone in our country today. Americans are simply used to flipping a switch and watching the lights come on. Plugging in your air conditioner, plugging in a fan, feeling the relief of cool air, trusting that your refrigerator is keeping your food nice and cool, and that you can wash your clothes on laundry day. As you all know, Hurricane Maria put a little dent in some plans for people in Puerto Rico on that. It caused unprecedented damage to the island's already fragile power grid. It's literally a life and death situation for so many people on the island. The parts of life that we all take for granted, not only comfort, but more importantly, a sense of well-being, a sense of knowing that things are going to be okay the next day. All of that disappeared in a day. And even though the grid has been restored in Puerto Rico, they're still living through that day to day because there's no resiliency in the system, there's no backup on the system. But there's positive news and there's hope through all of this. What we learned through that ideal is that the island and the people of Puerto Rico are very resilient. I mean, I think we've seen that time and time again for people who are at lunch today. Watching those videos were very powerful. And we're here tonight to support a project for Puerto Rico and to help improve on that resiliency. What we're here for tonight is to really think about what do people need most. Think about if you're sick, if you're young, the ability to protect and maintain perishable medication. Things like insulin, vaccines, antibiotics, cancer medications. How do you do that when the lights go out and the power goes out for months on end? It's not only you at that point in time, it's your children, it's your friends, it's your parents. And given the extent of damage on Puerto Rico to the electric infrastructure, the importance of this issue is magnified. And that's why we're very happy to be here tonight and to support as our cornerstone project, with the generous support of each and every single one of you, we're partnering with the Puerto Rico Primary Care Association, a nonprofit organization, to fund the purchase and installation of solar plus battery storage systems for use at primary health care centers throughout the island. By doing this, we hope that we can improve the resilience of Puerto Rico's energy grid, at least for this segment of underserved people and help address the refrigeration needs so that they can maintain the perishable medications that they need. While we intend to support the deployment of as many of these systems at primary health care centers throughout the island as possible, we're going to, partnering again with the association, we're going to focus our efforts first on 2 islands off the coast of Puerto Rico, Vieques and Cubre, the 2 islands that may not have grid power for up to 2 years. So think about that. I mean, the island is getting back into shape right now, but there are still people who may not have grid power for 2 years. How would we all focus through that? And so in a minute, I'm going to invite our partner up, Javier Jimenez, who's the director of the Puerto Rico Primary Healthcare Association, to provide additional information about the project. But first, we'd like to play a little bit of a video and give you a little bit more background about what we're trying to accomplish here.
There are no lights. It is dark, entirely dark. And apparently, it could take months to get the power back on. Just think about that for a second in the modern world. Months with no power. This is part of the United States of America.
President Trump declared an emergency today in Florida, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, all threatened by the most powerful Atlantic hurricane ever seen.
This storm is still moving towards St. Croix and Puerto Rico. The U.S. Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, all still in the cone, but so is Puerto Rico. The entire country, the entire territory, absolutely under the control of this Category 4, maybe Category 5 storm.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed.
Please welcome to the stage Javier Jimenez.
Good evening. We have a saying in Puerto Rico It's very important to have as a good friend a priest, a doctor, and a lawyer. So I think I'm in good company today. I want to thank everyone. I really do. You saw the video, and it's hard to convey what really happened. And it's not only Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, we always kind of forget about them. So we always try to remind people that those U.S. citizens also need our help. And the Primary Care Association is reaching out to them. NAC is also helping on that. I see friends in the audience that were also first responders from Holyoke to New York to Washington. So it feels like family here. In one of those moments that we were traveling, because there were no communications as you saw in the video, the first thing that we had to do was leave and go and do needs assessments and inform back locally and to the federal government what was really going on. And very little action was seen in those first difficult days. People were hungry, water, medications. And thanks to other nonprofit organizations that came in and supported, because that's what they do. They don't wait for regulations or instructions. They just do it. So the idea is, how do we protect those medications? So many people, we didn't have oxygen, insulins, cancer, vaccines were required, and the centers were ready the first couple of days and weeks. But as time went by, what do you do with those generators that are not ready to be on for weeks, for months? Today I got the news that one of our hospitals up in the mountains, Castañer, got power after almost 8 months. So thank you to everyone that's donating. You have cards, and I must ask, please donate. You're donating life. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to make another special announcement that's special, otherwise it wouldn't be special. So with that, I'd like to invite Gary Guy, president of the FELJ, to join me on the stage.
I'm glad you already put this at my level. Thank you. My EBA brothers and sisters, honored guests, our association is a force for good. While we have 3 sister boards, we have one common overall arching mission to do good for people all over the world, to the extent that the bylaws of the FELJ state that one of our missions is to promote the purpose and cause of our charitable foundation. It is in that spirit and toward that objective that my board members and I saw a need and seized an opportunity to take a portion of our corpus, which has grown to phenomenal levels due to wise management and investment strategy, and to divert a portion of those monies to our sister board at the CFEBA for the creation of its corpus so that it can plan long-term planning and also be prepared to step in for emergency needs more than it is currently able to do. And it's for that reason that I am so pleased personally to be able to announce on behalf of the FELJ that we are making a gift, a donation, no strings attached, to the CFEBA in the amount of $200,000.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah. No, hold on a second. Gary, thank you very much for your generosity. On behalf of the entire CFEBA board, we are extremely grateful. We know that this is something that we've been working with the entire FELJ board, yourself, incoming presidents, and the rest of the board. So want to thank all of you for this great support, because this is something that's going to enable us, and I'll get into it in a minute, to respond more quickly to urgent needs, to disasters. I mean, really, your community, the support here has been awesome, but what we'd like to be able to do is, instead of holding a fundraiser and waiting to be able to raise the funds to help, to be able to do that up front. So thank you very much on behalf of all of us. Thank you very much. So at this point in time, we'd like to provide you with a little bit of an update on what we were able to accomplish last year. Last year was a great year, as many of you know. We did fundraising to support bringing solar-powered water projects to a village in Uganda. And I'd like to bring up right now, ask Jane Ruger, our prior president, to provide a few words on that. And you're not Jane, but that's okay. All right, how you doing?
All right. I'm not Jane, I apologize. So, hi everyone, I'm Harold Bolger. I'm a board member of the CFEBA and also this year's fundraising chair. So thank you for coming out today and funding all the great efforts that we have. Last year, the CFEBA raised money to fund a solar power water pump and drip irrigation system, plus starter seeds for planting for a village in Uganda called Ikuyam. So I want to show you a couple pictures of our friends in Uganda. And I need to advance the slides. There we go. Ikuyam has never before had clean running water for drinking and has experienced famine due to drought and lack of irrigation. With your incredible help and the help of Innovation Africa, the water pump and irrigation system have been installed and are producing water as we speak. Innovation Africa sent pictures of the first seed planting and a joyful celebration in the village to mark the occasion. This has been a true miracle for the village of Ikuyam. The CEO of Innovation Africa said to us recently that seeing the changes in Ikuyam was powerful for the soul, and as you'll look at the pictures in the short video, remember that your efforts made all of this possible. With your kindness and willingness to donate to the CFEBA, you made a life-changing difference in an entire village.
To everyone at Energy Bar Association, hello from Ikuyam village in Uganda, the one that you changed their lives, and they have something to tell you.
So, we hope to have the same impact going forward this year in Puerto Rico. You can use the donation cards on your table, as we told you before. If you have extra $200K due to tax reform or bonus season, we'll take that. We'll put it to good use. Every dollar counts. Please remember, we can all make a difference. And thank you again for supporting CFEBA. And Jane sends her regards. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I now have the pleasure of introducing another person, and this is a true pleasure for me because in 4 hours and 2 minutes, she will be my successor, and I will be done. And you will be done with me, which is probably the most important thing that you can think about. So I now have the pleasure to introduce you to the incoming CFEBA president for next year, Donna Byrne of Skadden Arps.
Thank you, Mark. My remarks will be brief as we have our continuing program. Thank you all for being here. It's been a true pleasure to serve on the CFEBA board for the past 3 years under the tremendous leadership of first President Stasser and then President Jane Ruger, and President Kalpin. Each one has elevated the bar, and I look forward to the challenge of maintaining and continuing that tradition. Thank you all for being here.
So one last acknowledgement, because I know everybody's saying, hey, when's the fun going to start, right? So finally, I'd like to take a moment to really thank the people who have made all of this evening happen. It's not me. They just kind of like wind me up and put stuff on the screen and I say it. So first off, I'd like to thank everyone who made tonight happen, the CFEBA board, Michelle Smith, Lisa Levine, and all of our wonderful volunteers for this evening. Without them, there's absolutely no way that this would happen. So thank you all very much. You made my job very, very easy. So now we get to the point of the fun. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. This concludes, thankfully, the program portion of the evening. I don't have to say anything anymore, but we're not finished with the fun. We wanted tonight to be truly a celebration of Puerto Rico culture and spirit. And in keeping with the theme, we have a delicious Latin-inspired dessert buffet. So if you want to have that, if you want to have coffee, if you want to keep on drinking, that's fine too. Enjoying each other's company, we're absolutely fine with that. We've got some great entertainment. But before we do that, I want to bring someone to the stage that needs no introduction, but I'll introduce her anyway. And that is one of our honored guests and our cultural ambassador for the evening, Chief Judge Carmen Citron.
Thank you. Good evening. I hope you can all hear me. First, I would like to start with a disclaimer. Everything that will come out of my mouth is my own imagination and a true story, and FERC has nothing to do with it. That's my own way of saying a disclaimer. I will share with you today things that probably none of you know. They are my life story of growing up in Puerto Rico. I don't know, many of you may not know I'm Puerto Rican, and I'm still Puerto Rican. And I grew up in the island, so I will share some of my life experiences. I will also share with you the plight of my family as they went through the hurricane and the aftermath after the hurricane. So first, I will share some things that will probably make you laugh, and then we'll get into the sadder part. And then I will share with you the next, an introduction of the kind of music that you will be listening to, and I will share with you what that is all about. My life in Puerto Rico was very good. We had food. I went to parochial schools. We had power. We always had power. We hardly ever lost power. We had relatively good roads. They were built by the Spaniards, but what can you say? They were okay. We had a 1960, I can't remember if it was a 1950 or 1960 Chevy that we used to call it Chevrolito. There were 4 of us and my father and my mother. We had a black and white TV. Growing up, I remember my uncle worked for the power company in Ponce. Those of you that were at the lunch today remember Ponce is the generation part of the island. So my uncle, an electrical engineer, graduated from the University of Puerto Rico, the Mayagüez campus, where we have a lot of electrical engineers, as opposed to some of them that went to Georgia Tech, sitting here tonight. We hardly, so I am not going to take credit for my uncle, but we hardly ever lost power, like I said before, and my uncle worked at the company. He also lived with us. We lived in a house in the city, and it was a wooden house with a tin roof. And the house, when we rented the house, and the house, in addition to the tin roof and the wooden structure, was a very big house, and when it rained, the tin roof would make noise, so it was a pleasure to hear the rain. But it also, according to family folklore, it also came with a ghost. And my uncle and I kid you not, my uncle the engineer, and the engineers from the Mayagüez campus are notorious for drinking a lot. So he came, so the family folklore goes that my little sister, baby, saw the ghost one night and started saying, there's a man there, and my mother and my father did one of this with the sheets. The baby slept in the bedroom, my mother and my father, when she started saying, there's a man there, there's a man there, my mother and my father went like, whoop, okay, we didn't hear her say anything. But my uncle also related that one night he got home and he was drunk, and somebody slapped him. So that's as far as that gets. But anyway, then we moved to the suburbs, and then we had a cement house. And the cement house came with a Doberman pinscher, and we used to think that we could ride him as a horse. When we lived in the city, not in the burbs, I omitted to tell you, my father always had hobbies. And one of his hobbies was he had these cages, and he would fatten up crabs in the backyard. I don't know how he got away with doing that in the city. I guess the zoning ordinances were not enforced that much. So we would, whenever we felt like it, my parents would boil crabs, and we would have crab for dinner that evening, homegrown, fattened up with corn. When we moved to the burbs, my mother and my father would get us Easter chickens. And one night we were having chicken, and we said, hey, Mother, how come we're having chicken for dinner? I'm missing Louis. Is this Louis? And that took care of that. After that, we never wanted any more chickens for Easter. In a more serious tone, we would also take trips. Before I get to the serious, let me tell you another family folklore story. This is a classic. So we would get in the Chevrolito to go visit my grandmother in the northern part of the island, where everybody uses the power that is generated in the southern part of the island. So we would get in the car and go visit our grandmother through the roads that were done by the Spaniards. So it would take us 3.5 hours to drive through the mountains in these curving roads. Everybody would throw up. It was a fascinating trip. But in one of those trips, there were 4 daughters, my mother and my father. And when we got to San Juan, and it was for Christmas, and apparently my father, who never lived this down, forgot a suitcase that had all the undergarments for all the ladies. So the next day, Christmas Day, my father and my uncle had to bribe a store owner. In those days, you could do stuff like that. I don't know if you can still do stuff like that, but they had to bribe a store owner to open a store so they could proceed to buy, you know what. In a more serious tone, I remember when you live in an island that can have storms, you prepare for hurricanes. And so I remember my father plotting the coordinates from the radio of when hurricanes were going to come by. And thank God, while I lived there, a hurricane never hit the island like these hurricanes hit the island. But I remember being so terrified and so scared because my father would be plotting and listening to the radio. We would also be prepared by collecting water. My mother had all these garbage cans that could not be used for anything else except when hurricanes were coming. One was for water for the toilets, one was for cooking water, and one was for drinking water. So it was a very interesting experience and a very gut-wrenching experience to have to go through that. It was nothing like what happened now, but I remember in one of the storms, go forward many years later, as we grew older, my sister worked for the power company. We have a very good tradition in my family of working for the power company. And my sister had to come, the power company had to send a cherry picker to pick her up because she had to report to work. So during my life in Puerto Rico, the island was a paradise. Of course, I'm conveying this to you from a child and from an adult, but we had everything. And the power company could keep the power running 24 hours a day. The island developed. As an adult, we had wonderful roads. They built an infrastructure that would move people from the southern part of the island to the northern part of the island in an hour and a half. It was called the autopista. We had tourists. We had a lot of industry in Puerto Rico. So now I will go on to tell you, and I forgot to tell you, we had the beaches. So whenever you got upset, you could just go meditate next to the ocean. As is reported to me, when the hurricanes were coming, my aunts and my uncles, thank God, lived in cement houses made out of solid construction, mortar blocks, cement, and in heavy-duty beams. But what they conveyed is the fear and the incredible fortitude that they have to not be petrified. These houses made out of cement, the wind seemed like they were going to be taken off their foundations. They lost power immediately because it was one storm after the other, so the infrastructure was already very deteriorated. So they lost power. The winds were incredible. My aunt says that her door, a heavy wooden door, was rattling as if the wind was going to take it. Luckily for them, the only major damage to the house was a bathroom extractor that flew off, a fan flew off, and then the water came into the house, so they had a lot of water damage. My aunt, my cousin who lives in Carolina, was without power until December. What you heard at the luncheon today was true. She says, in December, we were so happy that there were guys on top of the roofs going from house to house, restoring power. The fear, the things that the Puerto Rican people had to go through, nobody should have to go through. Thank God I never had to go through them, but what the people in the island have gone through is a shock to anybody. It's not just not having power, it's what happened afterwards, where people would have to stand in line to just get the bare necessities of life. An incredible thing, and it was very, very sad. In October, when we had the energy convention, I was speaking to Carrie Baumgartner, and my cousin called me. And I am ashamed to say that she called me to get her a generator, and I'm thinking, I looked at Carrie, and after the conversation with my cousin, I said, what is a generator? I'm ashamed to say I work in the industry, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to go get, a generator for a house. And throughout the week, Carrie, her husband, and other people from the energy bar were helping me. And I called my UPS store, and they said, we will ship it for $300 if it weighs less than 100 pounds. And later on that week, my cousin called me and said to me, I was able to procure a generator in the island. So so I want to thank the Energy Bar from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing here. Thank you so much. I know this was a lot of work for many people. Michelle contacted me a long time ago, and I was very moved by the fact that you consider Puerto Rico for the foundation and to raise money for Puerto Rico. Thank you so much. Now, moving on, because Michelle told me, even though I told her I'm Puerto Rican and I can speak for the whole night, she said I only have 5 minutes, so I hope I have not spoken longer than that. The music you're going to hear now is one of the musical traditions of Puerto Rico. It is a mixture of 3 different cultures of the island: the Africans, the Spanish, and the Taino cultures. There, now that's the lesson part for the CLE credits. As you can see, it is mostly played by drums. While bomba can be used as a generic name for a number of rhythms, its real meaning is about the encounter and creative relationships between dancers, percussionists, and singers. Bomba is a communal activity that still strives in Puerto Rico and in the places where it was created, Ponce being one of them, Loíza, Santurce, and Mayagüez. It is reported that bomba was developed in Puerto Rico sometime after the transatlantic African slave trade in 1501, and it is reported that it was developed as a way for the slaves to rebel against the slave owners. So, with that, I will introduce the 2 groups that are here tonight. It's a mixture of 2 groups, the Semilla Cultural and the Cultura Plenera. I also would like to report to you that I had a second uncle that was a very good storyteller of Puerto Rican poems, and he used to travel with bomba groups saying poems. So thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. We are introduction as to exactly what bomba is. And so you see the drums out here, and we're going to play a little bit of music. And the main aspect that I want you guys to notice is the combination and the relationship that there is experienced between the drummer and the dancer. The drummer interprets the dancer's movement. So it's something very special. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything that you guys have done.
Tráelo, mi vida, tráelo, tráelo y échalo pa' acá. Le están haciendo un preparamiento, esa bandolera lo quiere matar. Tráelo, mi vida, tráelo, échalo pa' acá. Están haciendo un preparamiento, esa bandolera lo quiere matar. Tráela alpaca, la lleva buena. Esa bandolera lo quiere matar. Tráelo, mi vida, tráelo, tráelo, échalo pa' acá. Están haciendo un preparamiento, esa bandolera lo quiere matar. Está sufriendo esa locura de mal, de amor y muchas cosas más. Los sentimientos me están matando. Tráelo, mi vida, lo voy a santiguar. Tráelo, mi vida, tráelo, tráelo, échalo pa' acá. Están haciendo un preparamiento, esa bandolera lo quiere matar. Le están tirando cosas
That was Eunice Mercado cantando Atráelo, and Isha Renta bailando, dancing. And Primo, Brenda, Maria, Solel, Figueroa, all of that.
Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Catalina la reina Cuembe, tú eres dueña de este balance. Plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Catalina la reina Cuembe, Catalina la reina Cuembe. Cantemos todos contentos, plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Catalina la reina Cuembe, tú eres dueña de este balance. Plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. Catalina la reina Cuembe, tú eres dueña de este balance. Plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe. ¡Ja! María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina. ¡Otra! Plere María, plere, plere María, plere, plere María, plere Catalina la reina Cuembe.
Thank you. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves and you see the contact between the drummer and the dancer. And if you guys ever feel inspired, you can jump on up here and maybe try it out, see what it's like. I dare you. Con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo con papeles, con papeles, con papeles, con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres. Con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo con papeles, con papeles, con papeles, con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres. Con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres. Con papeles, con papeles, con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres. Con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo con papeles. Con papeles, con papeles, con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres. Es egoísta con sus placeres, pero no cumple con sus deberes. A nadie ama, él a nadie quiere. Llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres. Con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo con papeles. Con papeles, con papeles, con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo como quieres. Si te lo llevas después no vengas con brete. No quiero cuentos ni quiero que lo regreses.
papeles, con papeles. Llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres.
Ese hombre cree que todito se lo merece, que donde come, donde tome, nadie debe. Ella perdió el respeto ahí por las mujeres. Llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres.
Con papeles, con papeles. Llévatelo, te lo regalo con papeles.
¡Otra vez!
Con papeles, llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres.
Con papeles, con papeles. Llévatelo, te lo regalo con papeles. Con papeles, con papeles, con papeles. Llévatelo, te lo regalo si tú quieres. Thank you so much. I know our time is limited, so I wanted to present our group, Brenda María, Soler Figueroa, Isha Renta, Yunes Mercado, Cristal Rivera, Josari Molina, Melanie Rivera y Cici Rivera. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sufrir es parte de mi vida ya, sin un complejo de inferioridad. Por eso no me canso de esperar, pues un día Dios a mí me ayudará. Y el día que eso suceda, escuche usted, a todo el mundo yo le ayudaré. Porque tarde o temprano usted verá como el día de mi suerte llegará, ya lo verá. Ahora sí, cógeme que voy sin jockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember, please enjoy the dessert buffet at the back of the room. Thank you.
Muchas veces me pongo a contemplar que yo nunca a nadie le he hecho mal, porque la vida así me ha de tratar. Si lo que busco es la felicidad, trato de complacer la humanidad, pero mi dicha que ha sido fatal. No pierdo la esperanza de luchar y seguro que mi suerte cambiará, pero ¿cuándo será? Pronto llegará el día de mi suerte. Sé que antes de mi muerte, seguro que mi suerte cambiará. Pronto llegará el día de mi suerte. Sé que antes de mi muerte, seguro que mi suerte cambiará. Esperando la vida de pasar, este martirio no podré aguantar. Y pregunto hasta cuándo durará, también si lo podré sobrellevar. Si el destino me vuelve a traicionar,